Greetings, Dr. Wolfula here with something a little different. With the release of the new Halloween in 2018, we saw the resurgence of a once-long dormant horror franchise in a big bad way. It wasn't some disposable direct-to-video cash grab made by no-names. It had a talented crew and brought back the series' stars. The new Halloween was divisive among fans, of course. I have to fucking see that shit in my comment section, but the flick made a mint, and I enjoyed it despite some flaws. Regardless of what you think, it's clear that Halloween's success will hopefully inspire other horror franchise renewals. So here are 5 horror franchises I'd like to see come back, and how they should be done today. Now, I'm not gonna go into any weird, dumbass fanfiction ideas here by describing concepts for potential new stories or anything. This isn't a bunch of movie pitches. I'm just gonna be going through all the best possible approaches to rebooting these franchises in today times. Alright, enough setup, let's dive in. Number 5, the Evil Dead franchise.
Groovy.
Ash vs. Evil Dead only just concluded its TV run, and it was a great show, so there isn't as much of a demand for more Evil Dead content right now. But as a fan, I'd like to see the Deadites return someday, and this series is very flexible thanks to its many incarnations and continuities. Of course, my personal most desired continuation would be an Army of Darkness 2, which would technically be Evil Dead 4. I really miss the time travel and medieval aspects of Army of Darkness. Also, the fucking cool medieval bionic hand.
Groovy.
Army of Darkness had 2 endings, one which was more heroic, and the other that was more bleak and apocalyptic. Continuing from either would be great, but Ash vs. Evil Dead ended with a similar post-apocalyptic outcome, so that seems like a more likely continuation.
No! I slept too long!
Of course, there was also the Evil Dead remake, Sans Ash, that has yet to be sequelized. It was flawed, but I enjoyed it, and after getting my Ash fix from the TV series, I wouldn't mind another dark, gritty Evil Dead film, especially if it was alongside an Ash vs. Evil Dead / Army of Darkness movie. Ash could potentially get a juicier cameo or even a crossover.
Groovy.
Number 4, the Hellraiser franchise.
The box. You opened it. We came.
It's just a puzzle box!
Hellraiser has still been going, but in a soulless, ultra-low-budget direct-to-video state for years, and this is because, well, as long as Dimension continues to make a Hellraiser movie every now and then, they can still hold on to the rights no matter the quality, which is kinda retarded. They're holding on to Hellraiser rights just to make sequels nobody wants to watch so they can, hold on to Hellraiser rights. Hopefully the success of Halloween in theaters will inspire a shift in priority for the Hellraiser franchise. In 2013, Clive Barker wrote a script for a Hellraiser remake that never came to pass, so Barker is clearly still interested in working on this series as long as it's treated with some respect.
Now you must come with us. Taste our pleasures.
But I don't think a remake would be necessary. It's such a timeless concept that you could just make a sequel with a new story without having to start over. Though, a new Hellraiser would definitely need to go back to what made the original work, and hew close to that after all the bad will the recent sequels brought. Maybe finally bring back Doug Bradley as Pinhead the Hell Priest, too. He's shown recently that he can still look good in those pins.
The eternal refrain of humanity. Pleading ignorance, begging for mercy. Please help me. I don't understand.
Number 3, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Texas Chainsaw is another franchise that's still going, but I haven't been digging the newer films. Admittedly, Texas Chainsaw 3D back in 2013 did go the Halloween 2018 route by being a direct sequel set years later, but the flick didn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film to me. It felt closer to a Friday the 13th flick. It just didn't have the heart of the original, what made the first flick work, but it did have some nice nostalgic fan service at the beginning, so there was that. So a new flick could be made that's a sequel to the original done right, but that'll get really fucking old so soon after Texas Chainsaw 3D. Of course, a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre wouldn't have to take place in modern times, it could be a period movie. The key thing is to not focus too much on Leatherface, cause he's not really interesting by himself. The Saw is family, so the family needs to be at the center of a new film. That's where recent films have failed.
Sex or the Saw? Sex is, nobody knows. But the Saw is family.
There have also been rumors of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre TV show, which could potentially be interesting. The idea of a cannibal family secretly existing in a community has some juice to it.
You let us fix do all the work. He don't like it, ain't that right? You're just a cook.
Number 2, the Friday the 13th franchise.
The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. His name was Jason.
Friday the 13th has been dormant now for nearly 10 years, the longest we've gone since a new sequel. The 2010s have been bleaker for this franchise than even the 90s were. The current reason the series might not see a sequel soon is because of recent legal difficulties involving the original's writer, Victor Miller, but really, the Friday the 13th producers have just been sitting on the franchise for years. After the reboot in 2009, all we got for ages was the game, which is nice and all, but you know, it isn't a movie. Hopefully with Halloween's success, the desire to settle the lawsuit will accelerate the process and a new sequel will be on the horizon. Still, even then, a new Friday the 13th is likely years off. Enough time has passed that a sequel to the reboot probably isn't going to be viable, but maybe the 13th film could take place in the 80s again. The series' continuity is pretty spotty, so there's plenty of places between films where a new film could fit into. I mean, what happened between Jason Takes Manhattan and Jason Goes to Hell? A new film could follow directly after the 80s Paramount Friday the 13th films. Of course, if you'd know the timeline, you'd know how fucked up the chronology is, and apparently Jason Takes Manhattan took place in 1998. It's weird. Honestly though, whether a new film takes place today or in the past, I just think it needs to go back to the roots of the first 4 films and make Jason this mysterious, creepy killer hermit that may or may not be supernatural. Maybe even expand on the town Crystal Lake some more.
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Number 1, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Hey, asshole! Up here!
It's been a minute since we last saw Freddy, and even longer since Robert Englund took on the role, which is a fucking shame. I think in Halloween's wake, Nightmare on Elm Street is the most primed for renewal. Wes Craven is unfortunately no longer with us, but we still got Robert Englund, who maybe knows the role even better than the creator. I think Englund could play the role at least one more time to see Freddy off in proper fashion. Englund has shown on his recent sitcom appearance that he can still pull off Freddy, but he wouldn't even have to necessarily.
Parents, who needs them? I never knew any of my fathers, and I turned out just fine.
If you go back to the original, much more darkly lit Freddy, you could just have a body double in place for most of Freddy's scenes. Have Englund for close-ups, and just have Englund dub over all the dialogue in post.
This is God.
A new Nightmare on Elm Street would definitely need to return to Craven's vision. Darker, more twisted humor instead of Freddy being a total ham. Freddy is timeless as this dream stalker, so a jump to present day can totally work compared to the more mortal Michael Myers. A new Freddy film wouldn't really need to ignore past films, but Freddy isn't really as chained to his canon, so a new film wouldn't need to be bogged down by years of continuity or story arcs. There's plenty of freedom to tell a new story without skipping any sequels.
I mean, come on, get real. You're not even scary. You're not even scary. And let's talk about the butter knives. What is with the butter knives? You trying to compensate for something?
So that's my list of horror franchises in need of a fresh new start. As a couple of honorable mentions, I'd like to finally have a My Bloody Valentine sequel, and see the Universal monsters done proper modern justice. Let me know down below what horror franchises you'd like to see renewed. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like it, but if you loved it, make sure to subscribe to me, Dr. Wolfula. Oh, and keep in touch with me on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dr. Wolfula. Be sure to also help support the channel in any way you can, especially by donating to my Patreon, where you can keep up with me, get exclusive content, and talk to me directly. Finally, I have some new merch available on TeePublic, so if you'd like to wear some Dr. Wolfula or even goulash swag, head on down there. Of course, the channel wouldn't be possible without all the support I've gotten from my fans on Patreon, and I'd like to thank these folks for helping me make this happen. It really is an honor to make content for so many swell people, and I hope to do you guys proud in the future. Thanks to all of you once again from your old pal, Dr. Wolfula.